Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hero Life show. Today, we are really honored to have Richard Osborne join us to share his experience of being an AFL footballer, as well as moving into the world of mental and emotional and physical support, and just being a great advocate for mental health. So we're really honored to have you on the show, Richard.
Thanks, Daniel, and thanks for having me. It's an honor to have a chat with you as well.
Thank you so much. So I think it'd be really powerful just before we get into the work that you're doing right now. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, your upbringing, and almost to the point before you made your debut in the 80s. What was life like for you as a youngster?
Yeah, life as a youngster was full of sport, as it probably was for most kids growing up in the 60s, 70s, and into the early 80s as a teenager. I've just turned 57, so youngest of three boys. Grew up in the eastern suburbs of Melbourne, out Bulleen way. So our sport of choice back in those days was basketball most of the year round, and you really only had two choices. But in those days was football in the winter months, Aussie rules football that is, and if you were that way inclined, you'd play cricket in the summer months, which we did as well. So yeah, always fairly competitive, having two older brothers that were heavily involved in junior sport as well. So yeah, it was good fun times.
And did you have great support for your sporting abilities when you were growing up? What were your parents up to? What were they like, and how did they support you?
Yeah, mum and dad were incredible in that regard for all three boys. No matter where we played, being having three kids of varying age groups, dad and mum were always in the car going from football match to football match. It wasn't that often that we played in the same team together, so there's a fair few kilometres travelled back in the day, and also particularly with the basketball as well. We played state basketball and championship basketball. Friday night you could be anywhere in Melbourne, and weekends as well. So, and interstate tournaments. So there was a lot of support from mum and dad, and also throughout my VFL, AFL career as well. They were always there for me.
Amazing. Yeah, we're really lucky to have great parents who are available to take us around when
Absolutely.
we were youngsters, getting out there, just trying to, enjoy our life and the sport that we play, and they're just always available for us. So has that translated also for you being a dad to three kids? Is that the life you were living and supporting with them?
Yeah, look, my son was fairly heavily involved in basketball as well, and then soccer. So we spent quite a few weeknights watching him train and play over weekends. So I really enjoyed that as well. And I was just passing on the gift, I guess, that my parents gave me onto my son and my daughters as well. The older one, Celeste, she loves playing netball, quite an accomplished netballer as well. So she loves the sport, and Charlie, she'll just have a go at anything, tennis lessons, ballet, you name it, she'll be involved. So yeah, it's just good fun to be involved with the kids in that regard.
Yeah, and you picked up a really crucial point there. It's role modeling. So it's amazing that your kids have got a great role model in you, and of course you had great role models in your parents. So what was it like growing up with them? Just in terms of day-to-day life, opening up about challenges in your life. Was it a very open household, very communicative? How was that for you?
When I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, we're talking growing up in the 60s and 70s. The emotions and feelings were just shut shop, and you just never spoke about it. So I think if we had our time again, it wouldn't be the way it should be. But thankfully, we've learnt a lot from those times. And even though there's still that stigma out there in regard to mental health, and I think we're kidding ourselves if we say that's gone away completely. But we've certainly come a long way since the 70s, that's for sure. So I'm pretty happy to say that.
Yeah. And so, and role modeling in the VFL, AFL system, obviously you're a young man when you made your debut in the early 80s. What was the scene like there, playing in a, heavily, obviously male dominated industry? What was it like there with role models about supporting you with mental health, with physical health, with emotional health? What was it like growing up and spending your days in that kind of environment?
Yeah, I think the role modelling was more in a physical sense. Teaching younger guys how to train to the optimum in regard to emotional support and mental wellness. It just wasn't there. Again, you don't know what you don't know. So, you know, I'm not critical of clubs back in that day. It just wasn't a focus of theirs, and they weren't aware of it or didn't know anything about it. So they weren't at fault. We weren't at fault. Thankfully, the industry's changed completely these days, and current players have that support.
Mm-hmm. And what was it like for you? Obviously, being a young man and kind of navigating that scene, obviously being a popular player and being out and about in the social scene as well. What was going on for you internally? Obviously, there's a lot of great things happening outside of yourself and a lot of praise being thrown on you. But what was going on in your inner world?
Yeah, look, it was tough. Look, I can still remember, and again, it's not a poor me scenario here, but if we're talking mental wellness, we've got to be open about it. I remember it all probably started getting a bit too much when I was drafted to go up to the Sydney Swans. And, you know, I'm a young guy of 29 years of age living in Bronte, overlooking the surf. I could look out my bedroom window. I've got a surfboard in my house or apartment in those days, wetsuit, and I could virtually walk a few hundred metres. I'm out in the surf at Bronte, but I spent most of my days when I was up at the Swans in bed, crying, couldn't get out of bed. Obviously, I had to get it all together for game day, and thankfully I could do that. But yeah, it's some pretty ordinary times, and you know, it's just important that we know that there's support out there, whether it be from family, friends, or professionals in the field. It's just important to get that help and that support. So if you don't, it can certainly spiral out of control fairly quickly. So no matter what that support is, you know, initially just talking about it is a great support mechanism. And if you need any further help beyond that, I'd encourage people to seek it out.
Sure. And I mean, when you were sharing about being in that apartment and being in bed, like what was the inner dialogue that was going on? What were the struggles?
Oh, I suppose it didn't really make a lot of sense at the time. And you know, you speak to mates about it now, and they think, you know, you'd be the last person I would have thought would have struggled with your mental health, because I think Darren Kapler put it fairly succinct recently. We were speaking about, and he said, look, the general public see us with the cute blonde under our arms at the Brownlow Medal, and we're superstar footballers, whatever you want to call us, and we don't have a problem in the world. But you know, just because we play an elite sport doesn't mean that we don't have our own struggles. And I think a lot of whether it be rock stars or personalities in general, whether it be in the sporting endeavour or Hollywood, whatever it may be, just because you got millions of dollars in the bank and you're living the life of a rock star doesn't mean you don't have those internal demons to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be relieved to hear that from someone like yourself, because you're right. I think people put rock stars, sporting stars on a pedestal, feeling like they don't experience what you're sharing. But of course, we're all just human beings. And so we can all experience the wild variety of emotions and thoughts and bodily sensations. And the importance of breaking down those barriers and that stigma helps everyone. So I applaud you for getting out there and sharing your experience.
Yeah, no, I think it's key that we need to realise we're not bulletproof. Just to take small steps on a daily basis to enhance your mental wellness is key.
Yeah, it's a great approach. And so, I mean, you moved to Sydney. You said you were 29. What was, moving into your 30s and into your 40s? Obviously, saying you're 57 now. Tell me about that period for you. Where were you living? Where were you playing? And obviously, the transition outside of AFL into living day-to-day life. What was that like?
Yeah, well, history shows that after Sydney, I spent 3 years at the Footscray / Western Bulldogs. There was a name change whilst I was there, actually. And then a couple of years at Collingwood. So retired at a fairly old age for an AFL footballer. Started at 17 and finished at 34. So it wasn't as if I was still wanting to play the game. My body was shot after all those years of banging it around, and retired at a fairly old age, at age 34. And I suppose you don't really think about it when you retire and move into having to find a real job. Your whole adult life, your identity is as a footballer, and it's, whether you like it or not, it's not a normal life. You know, people do put you up on a bit of a pedestal, and that's something I was never comfortable with. I'm probably more comfortable with it now because it probably doesn't happen that often anymore. But it's a weird life, and you know, when you have to start fending for yourself, and you know, find your own job and create a future for yourself, it is very challenging. And you know, we didn't have that sort of support mechanism from clubs. When you retire, you're gone, and you know, never to be seen again, so to speak. So wasn't ideal, but you know, thankfully the support mechanisms are in place now for current AFL footballers. They've got a lot of support through the AFL Players Association, as do us retired footballers as well. So certainly the industry's learnt a lot from the past, and has grown substantially and so professionally in more recent years.
Yeah, I can imagine the transition from being just heavily lauded for the work that you do, and then all of a sudden it's just like, you know, evolving into something where you're no longer seen in that light, and possibly like yesterday's news. How did that feel? Like, what was that like down the street when you were going out? Was there interest and engagement with you? Obviously, when you were doing business as well and moving into other careers, you know, what was people's reaction to you?
Look, I think people always like talking about football. So if you've spent that long in the game, you're always going to be related to as either a footballer or an ex-footballer. So even these days, people will come up and want to talk about football. And you know, I still love the game, and I spent my whole adult life up until 34 playing the game. So yeah, look, I was never comfortable with being treated like a rock star, so to speak. So that's certainly one area that I don't miss. Quite often in my earlier years when I first started playing football, I still vividly remember going to the local shopping centre in Doncaster shopping town, and people would start recognising you, and just I couldn't get out of the place quick enough. So it was almost like a form of a panic attack, I guess. I just didn't like being recognised. As you get older, you understand that's just comes with the territory, and life goes on. But yeah, early days it was difficult to deal with. And I think also having those underlying mental health issues probably didn't help either, because you weren't aware of what they are. And I remember recently, well, probably in the last couple of years, speaking to a psych that's involved with the Players Association. He said the challenging thing for guys that have these issues is that the sporting arena is probably the most anxious environment that you can live through, because you know, you're always judged on your performance. You're always worried about getting a game the following week. So the anxiety levels are through the roof for everyone involved in that area, and twofold for people that do suffer in certain areas of their life. So yeah, it's a bit of a dual-edged sword, but that's the way it was, and we got through it.
Yeah, amazing. So right now, you know, based on your experience and what you understand, there's great support in place for, you know, mental and emotional well-being at the AFL level.
Yeah, absolutely, and even for past players, if we need to seek out help through psychologists and psychiatrists, they're only a phone call away. So, which is great, because I know a lot of past players still suffer these days, and if they were just in the general community, they may not have that support structure around them to be able to seek out that help. So, it's fantastic that the association can do that for the players, past and present.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've obviously become more vocal in sharing your experience. Was there a catalyst moment for you in the last years where you just felt like, I need to share, I need to open up, because it's, you know, the suffering that's going on internally is just too overwhelming? Was there a moment there for you where you just felt like I needed to get it out?
Probably more so in the last 12 months. For years now, I've been wanting to share my story, but I think it's the main thing that held me back was just the stigma behind it. And you were just too concerned about what people would think. You know, they'd look at you differently, you know, that you were a freak, there's something wrong with you. But the more people that came out and spoke about their own challenges, you just thought, well, maybe it's time to have a chat about the challenges I went through myself. And a guy called Richard Maloney started a Facebook page probably 12 months ago now, or thereabouts, during lockdown, called Blokes United with Barry Hall and Sean Higgins. And I started listening to a few of the live chats they were having on that within that group, and I just felt quite comfortable and got in contact with Rich and said, look, I'd like to tell my story. And it's funny, even up until the night before, I felt a bit anxious about it. And I remember driving into work that day and had a bit of a tear. And I thought, well, I'm ready for this. I need to tell my story. And it might sound a little bit selfish, but I need to tell the story for my own well-being as well. And oddly enough, if one piece of advice I can give people out there that haven't shared their story or haven't told anyone what issues they're going through, the quicker you do it, the quicker you will heal. It was just incredible, the instant relief that I felt from just telling people what I'd gone through over a 30 or 40 year period. I felt instant relief. It was just incredible, and well worth it.
And so, just to give people a sense of what it was that you were going through, is there like a bit of a snapshot you can share about what it was that you were challenged by or suffering from over the past 30 to 40 years?
Yeah, I think it was just more the story I was telling myself in my head, and I just lacked energy. Not that often when I was out on the sporting field. There obviously was days when I struggled out there as well, which is a real challenge in itself. But yeah, just that inability to get up off the couch and be motivated to do anything. Mental health can be a real debilitating. That the difference between the two is, when we've got physical ailments, we can actually see, someone's got their arm in a sling or they've got a plaster cast on their leg, so you can see the problem. But with mental health, it can be a real challenge, because doesn't have that physical outward element about it.
And so obviously, like the last 12 months being out there and being a bit more vocal, you've probably learned some tools and tactics that have supported you just to get comfortable with what's going on in your inner world. But before that, what were some of the things that you used to support yourself with, feeling anxious or a sense of panic or, whatever it else was being displayed? Like, what kind of tools did you use at that time?
Unfortunately, I didn't have the tools, Daniel. So I just lived the life of an emotional roller coaster. When it came on, and I had no physical or mental tools to be able to deal with it. It was just a matter of, okay, this process is coming on again now, and it will take its toll and it will move on. So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't have any tools in those days and no coping mechanisms, no anything. Just a matter of hold on, brother, and hope for the best, and you'll come out the other end.
Yeah, that must have been a challenging period for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as much as you don't want to suffer yourself, there is that old saying, what doesn't break you makes you stronger. So I think ultimately, it nearly broke me. There was a lot of times there where it just bashes the brains out of you. It's not a good thing, but thankfully you meet some good people along the way, and you start to develop some tools and coping strategies, and really understand that you've got two choices. You either let your mental health control you, or you control your mental health. And having said that, I do understand that there is a small percentage of the population out there that suffer from chemical imbalances and need to be on medication. But I think there is a large majority of the population that, if they did have the correct coping strategies in place, their mental wellness wouldn't spiral out of control as quickly as it can, because you keep telling yourself that story over and over and over again. It's just like repetition. All of a sudden you can start spiraling out of control and start to get those panic attacks and go into a depressive state. But if you've got that ability to control what's going on between your ears, I find that half the battle now. Is I've got those tools, and I can stop it in its track before it gets anywhere near a panic attack or a depressive state.
Mm. So take us then to like 12 months ago when you were ready to share and open up about what life was like over those last 30 to 40 years. Who were you speaking to? What was the experience like? And what happened since then?
Well, the people I spoke to, it was similar to yourself now. It was over a Zoom call to Richard Maloney, who's the CEO of Quality Mind Global. He was running Blokes United. So it was just a Zoom call. Because I was at work, it had to be pre-recorded. And I think Darren Kapler had done one the week before. So he probably shamed me into putting my hand up and saying, well, Caps has told his story about his challenges. I need to man up and tell mine too. So yeah, that was probably a good 12 months ago now.
And then since then, in terms of your own evolution of just being comfortable, being at ease, knowing you've got the tools, knowing that you can allow things to pass on by, what are the tactics that have worked for you? What are the tools that have helped? And what's your experience now like to, just being okay with, whatever's going on in the content of your mind?
Yeah, I think the main, and again, without fear of repeating myself, the main tool I've picked up on is the ability to control your own thoughts. I know it might sound basic, but it's so powerful because we can be our thoughts. If we keep telling ourselves all day, every day that we're useless and we're a piece of crap and we're this and we're that, and just negativity, it's going to change your mood. It's going to change the way you look at yourself. It's going to change. It's got the ability to change your own personality. So that's the one key that I've picked up on is if I can control what's going on in my head, it has a massive impact on my mental health and my physical health as well, because you won't have those feelings of anxiety and depression.
Mm. And so then what are the benefits that have come about, in your family life, professional life, and just day-to-day life, knowing now that you can just be at ease and just be comfortable now?
Well, I think I just haven't had those episodes of just lying on the couch all day, every day. God, if I had $1 for every time I was on the couch and just wanting to sleep all day long, all day, every day, I'd be a rich man. So, I've just got more physical energy to do what I want to do during the day, which is it's great. It's great. It's the best I've felt in a long, long time. And knowing that I'm in control of it myself, that's powerful.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, there's nothing like supporting others through our own experience of, navigating challenging times. So what's the work that you're up to at the moment, and how's that benefiting other people?
Yeah, I run online courses through a company called Quality Mind Global. Current course I'm doing at the moment is it's all done via Zoom, which is, I suppose, the one good thing about the COVID situation is that we've all now got used to doing business online, whereas maybe 12 months to 2 years ago, I wouldn't have even heard of Zoom. So yeah, we run these courses online. A lot of it's to do with positive psychology, NLP, all these types of psychologies, and it's just all about controlling your thoughts. And again, there's a little bit more involved than just that. Probably a chat for another day, but Quality Mind have also they've got an app that they use as well. So it's almost like a form of hypnosis. There's no use just doing a course and just writing down a lot of notes about what we're covering, unless you change your subconscious mind or change what story you're telling yourself on a daily basis. You're not going to change. And that's why people go to these self-help seminars, or they might read a book. But the problem is it's more about knowledge jumping than anything else. But if you don't have that ability to change, history shows or science shows that we have between 70 and 90,000 thoughts a day. And the majority of them are just regurgitated from the day before. So if your thoughts on a daily basis are, I'm no good, I'm worthless, I'm no good, I'm no good, I'm no good, you repeat it the next day and the next day and the next day. And unless you have the tools and the ability to change those thoughts, your past is going to become your present and your future. So in a nutshell, that's what the course is all about. It delves a little bit deeper than just knowledge jumping. And this app is almost like a form of hypnosis, where you just check into your thoughts, 10, 20, 30 times a day and record them in this app. And if there are negative thoughts, you swap them over to positive thoughts. And as basic as that may sound, it's very, very, very effective when you gain momentum.
And the demographic of people that are showing up to these courses, what are the ages, what are the backgrounds, and is the impact, really benefiting everyone that gets involved?
The demographic I'm finding so far is quite diverse. The youngest, mid-20s, I guess, and anywhere up to mid-50s, and both male and female. So we've got a good variety of sexes and age groups. So it's fantastic. And the encouraging thing about it is, one of the guys I got in the course at the moment, he was probably the most reluctant of all to get involved, because he'd done a lot of self-help courses over the years, and even after 5 days, he's blown away on how much this is helping him. It's given him a bit of direction in his life, because he was getting a little bit demotivated, so to speak. So he's probably my number one student at the moment. I'm really happy too, because I thought he may have been a bit of a challenge, but he hasn't been at all.
That sounds profound and amazing. And so then, you've got 3 kids. I'm sure they adore you and love you. How is the relationship with them now? Obviously, you've come out the other side of a really challenging period. What's your relationship like with them? What's their openness like to you?
Yeah, relationship's pretty good. Like, for the most part, they didn't really have a father as a role model, because I was basically in bed a lot of the time, and Natalie, she was tasked to pick up the pieces, I guess. So, in the perfect world, I wasn't a good role model, but that was through no fault of my own. And yeah, I think what inspired me the most to get involved at this level in regard to mental wellness is to just play forward the gift that's been given to me. And if I can just help one person, even if it's just one person, help them not go through the pain and suffering that I went through over a very, very long journey, I'm a happy man.
That's powerful. All right. Thank you so much, Richard, for your time. I think that's a perfect place to leave it. The work
No problems, Daniel.
The work you're doing now is really important. And the man that you are, the human being that you are, sharing your story, I know it's going to impact a lot of people. And ultimately, all we want is people to just be light, happy, comfortable. Even though there is suffering going on, there are challenges being faced by everyone. To have great support and to have great leaders like yourself out there sharing your experience just puts people in a place where they can see that someone else is also going through something similar to me. And that's what we need more and more out there in the world.
Yeah, thanks, Daniel. I think, as you said, unless we live in a cave, we're always going to have challenges and things are going to come up in life. But if we've got the tools and the ability to minimize the impact, I think that's key. There's always going to be something that comes up in our life, whether it be a death in the family or something like that, that's really going to beat us around. But it's just a matter of trying to minimise the emotional roller coaster that our lives can become at times.
Yeah, brilliant. It's a perfect place to leave it. Thank you so much for your time, Richard, and thanks everyone for joining. Look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care. Thank you.